Hello, hello. Okay, I think we have relative silence here. Alright, there we go. So what we're looking at, sorry, just getting over a cold. Just going to go through the different trains that are running here on my Christmas layout. So on the outside track here I have my Norfolk and Western Class J 611, one of my favorites. This is the one that has the smoke, which is powered by some of the factory equipment, but it also has ESU lock sound. I'm actually using the UP844 file right now, since it's a pretty close match for it. I have the smoke turned off on it. Also running the Broadway Limited auxiliary tender that matches up. And then it has MTH passenger cars. And then I also have one Bachmann car kind of thrown in. So we'll run it by a little bit here. Love the whistle on that thing. So it's part of an MTH passenger car set, which I just recently acquired. Mainly because I didn't have any cars for 611. And this is the one Bachmann right here. That one says Norfolk Southern, so it still mixes in there. So we'll get that one out of the way and shut it up here. Next up, one of my favorites. And this is the Broadway Limited Q2 brass hybrid. Extremely rare and hard to find. I'm fortunate enough to have one. One of my favorite engines that I have. And this is pulling a World War II era, sort of like a war effort train. And it's got about 40 some cars loaded up on it, I think. Still has the factory sound for now. That's a great puller. Just threw a bunch of extra wheel sets in there for some loads. And these are the World War II era cars here. These are model power, believe it or not. Scale train's helping out with the war effort. And not that hard to find, but pretty cool, the Irv Athearn car. I always run that one at Christmas. And a nifty little Bowser Pensy caboose. So quiet that one up there and shut it up. Next up we got the Sharknoses. And the EB set here is a Broadway Limited. Picked these up over summer. Really great engines. I might do a review on them at some future point. But fantastic engines, but they don't pull a whole lot. B unit is not powered, just the A. And it actually struggled to pull more than about 25 for these loaded coal cars I have on here. So I used one of my Bachmann B units that were also Sharknoses. They match up pretty well. The paint's a little bit lighter on this one. This one doesn't have sound, but it's more than enough pulling power to help it do the job. And we'll run through the long coal train here. Still going. Nothing better than a long coal train. Another something I picked up the day I got the Sharks is this Bowser caboose there with the antennas on it. Really cool. So we got that one out of the way. And last but not least, I'll get it over here. Pennsylvania or that's not the Q2, but it's the S2 turbine. Picked this up in the spring. Really didn't run it much other than once or twice. Just the review I did and one other time. So I was actually planning on running one of the T1s, but I actually had a decoder problem, so that didn't quite work out. So I needed something just to run. So this is the only other Penske passenger engine I could do since my E8s are down right now. Those need some keep alives, but I still haven't gotten around to putting those in there. So this one got called into action. One cool thing about this one is it is quite the smoker. So we'll go ahead and turn that on. You can see that's going to start puffing out of there. We'll give it a go here. Kind of a lame whistle, but I'm eventually going to fix that. I got a Walther's B60B on there, baggage car, and a 5-car MTH passenger car set, which I still need to get some more. Pretty short train. I want to add in some coaches because I don't think I actually have any on this. This is mostly kitchen and dorm cars, observation cars. Okay, so that's out of the way. A couple other things I'll show you here that I've been working on. This is a Kato SD80 Mac. And ESU the other day just released brand new SD80 Mac sounds. Which the other cool thing there too is that they now have the full throttle feature because they haven't been updated in years. So the new sound is awesome. Has the proper horn finally. We'll go ahead and fire it up here. That's just the idle. Love that horn. So that's about it for that one. A little something else I've been working on, which is even cooler. This was the engine that I was going to run the Pensy passenger train with, but I had some decoder issues. It's a Broadway Limited T1 duplex. This is the in-service version, which you can tell by the less skirting and no portholes. We'll go ahead and fire it up here. Now, I'm not going to tell you what's in this one because it's sort of classified, but in my opinion, it's the best sounding steam whistle I've ever heard in an engine. This sort of has an experimental setup, like I said. So you get the idea there. A couple other little projects I've been working on. Picked up the new run of Athearn, the ES44 DC, the Golden Swoosh. It's a DCC ready model. It's going to get lock sound. I just haven't gotten around to taking off the shell and going through all that fun of redoing the ditch lights and that sort of stuff. But it's going to get all LED, lock sound, real nice TCS speaker, all 9 yards. usual stuff. It's going to do a review on it, but it's not really a sound model, so less to really talk about with this one. A couple other upcoming things that I'm going to be working on is the Excella. So I picked up an Excella set over summer. So these are going to be getting sound. The real goal here is to maintain a top speed over 120 miles an hour. I think they're running about mid 130s with the cars hooked up to them right now. And my E8s, which were basically what I broke in the layout with. These are going to be getting some keep alives put in there and probably redoing the speaker setup a little bit. And I felt like the lights in the front weren't quite bright enough, so I'm going to redo those. Also picked this up over summer. It's the porthole version of the T1 duplex. A little bit different version. Not too much. But that's going to get the same sound setup and maybe a couple other variations as my other T1. And Pasheen wants to say hello. Isn't it cute? Oh, gotta turn off the smoke here. So, layout tour. Well, there's not much of a layout, but we'll go ahead and go around the room here. So, let me mute this other thing. I'm tired of hearing myself talk. There we go. So, starting up front when you first come in the room here, kind of just have my controller over here for now. I did go ahead and change some things on the wiring. So I'm in the little middle island here, so I'm just going to exit out briefly. There we go. So a couple other things here. I did run 2 wires to the back here. This unit requires an Ethernet connection so that I can go ahead and do some programming on it. So I don't know if you can see it at all. But there is a Wi-Fi range extender in there. It has an Ethernet port so that it gives me internet to this room. That'll be a little handy once I add some other units into the room here for controlling. Thinking about getting the ESU cab control. So if I do, there's some ports on the back here that help run that. Ooh, can't really see them there. But it's called EcoSlink. So once I get those, probably going to get the mobile control too. And I picked up one of these little lights from Costco. Things are not extremely organized in here right now. So as you come into the room, this is kind of on the right side. This was kind of my Christmas dumping ground. And that little passageway there is usually where I just crawl underneath. In the corner here, this room has double doors, though I really only use one of them. Mostly underneath the table here is storage. So as we go underneath here, a lot of stuff's kind of undone. Since I'm running so many trains right now, I didn't feel like putting all the boxes exactly back together again. And this table here is pretty much all projects to be done. So everything here needs work. This is Ian's little Thomas the Train here. But more Athernaces. These are always a lot of fun, putting LEDs in there. Sound. Picked up a GP38. That's going to be getting LEDs, sound. It's also got some busted railings, so got to order some new ones. This is repair work from my local train shop. And of course I got lights in the front two windows here. So that's about it for this side, but kind of this main table here is just kind of a little front stretch. And then there's a table that goes along the back of the wall. And then in the middle I have a lot of my testing equipment. So we'll go back underneath. Also my speedometer. This is a lifesaver when it comes to speed matching engines. Also wheel cleaner. So we'll go up underneath. Even before that, this is the smoke I've been using in the engines. Three of the four on the layout right now are actually smokers. So it makes the room smell pretty nice and Christmassy. It's MTH. About $6 a bottle. Pretty cool. So we're ducking underneath here. Oh. And yes, I have hit my head on the part right here. It felt pretty bad. So underneath here is more storage. And I do try to keep everything sort of by manufacturer. As we get over here, box full of more track. For shipping, since I do a lot of sales and buy things, pretty good box supply. Got the laptop and usually the DC transformer plugged in underneath here. And this is my DC test unit, which I can just hook up to this Easy Track setup here, which I don't have a full circle of it yet. Eventually I will. But this track, right now I have the ESU programmer set up to it. When I want to use something else, I just unplug. And I have three different programmers. So I have the QSI one. I have somewhere around here. Digitrax PR3, which I use for Decoder Pro. So it pretty much covers everything. And more storage over here. And a bunch of Christmas junk there. Eventually I'm going to have the surge suppressor kind of mounted up underneath here and possibly some kind of little shelf so that I can run an extra set of cab controls or something here on the inside loop, because it's a real pain for me to try to reach over the table there if I'm in the inside. So I don't have full control over everything. And of course the laptop, which I have the live chat going in right now. Since I got another computer, I can pretty much keep this one in here permanently. And mainly what I use it for is going to be Lock Programmer, Decoder Pro, and also the QSI programs. Eventually I will be doing some DCS MTH stuff somewhere underneath here. Can't really see it. Oh, you can sort of see it. I picked this up originally to run some O-scale stuff, but didn't quite get around to it at Christmas, so that's going to have to wait. So eventually what the outer four loops here I'm probably not going to mess with very much at this point. So this kind of unused space between about here and here is about 12 inches. So I'm actually thinking about having an HO programming track, an N scale one, and then also possibly an O scale. So I want to start getting into O scale repairs. And as I measure this out, it is, I think, 55 inches from about here to here. So that means I could probably run 45 radius around the corners. 045 as they call it. So I'm thinking I can run an O scale track kind of around here and then an HO and an N around it. So I'll have all three scales for testing and repairs. So that's most of my testing equipment. I don't really do too much work to the engines in here in the room. So we'll go back on the tripod here. If I can get this thing to plug in. Oops. Where am I going? There we go. Well, I think I might end this one here, but any other questions in the chat at all? Says I got 7 people watching. So if you're watching, throw a shout out in the chat. Let me know you're here. See if there's anything else cool I can run here around. There's another look at that porthole T1. I guess while we're here, we can do a comparison of the two T1s. See if I can get them both in frame here. This is where I really miss not having that wide angle. There we go. So tender-wise, they're pretty much both the same. No real difference there. So just looking at the noses of both of them. So this is the prototype version. This is as it was delivered to the Pennsylvania Railroad. So a couple things you'll notice is they got the drum head down here. And of course the portholes. This one has actually like a little headlight or auxiliary light down here on the bottom, and it has the keystone moved up a little bit. Main differences is on the sides. So you can see here this one has a lot more skirting. A lot of that was removed later on to actually make the maintenance a little bit easier on these, which these tended to break down a lot. Engineers broke them. Also, there is 2 little lights on here, which I'm not sure if that's prototypical or not, or whether this one just doesn't have them. Overall, I like the look of this one a little bit better. I think it's a little bit more as the designers meant it to be. Okay, so Kyle says, have you done a decoder installation to a brass steam? I'm wanting to add one to my first brass. Wondering if it's any easier or harder than plastic. Depends on the engine. I've done a couple of them, and some of them are a real bear. A couple things on the brass engines is it's really going to depend on how old it is. Some of the really old stuff, what they tend to do is on the locomotive, it'll have power pickup for one side of the rail, and then in the tender, it'll have the power pickup for the other rail. So you don't get the best electrical footprint out of it. So for brass engines, you kind of have to run a keep alive. So whatever decoder you go with, make sure that keep alive is an option. If it's a newer one, they have really, really good motors in them, and they're very smooth, and usually you're not going to luck out and find one that's DCC ready. They're almost always hardwired for DC. So you do have to do a lot of rewiring. If you can get them to run right, I mean, they're definitely an outstanding engine. It's kind of something where you kind of want to take them apart and evaluate it. But I would say go with as new as you can get your hands on. Because if it's an older engine, it's probably not going to run right. And even if it does, you'll find that the motors in them are quite noisy. So, Kyle, let me know if that answers your question. Okay, although they just released the BLI Big Boy, would you keep the same decoder in it or change it out? Yes and no. And here's why I say that. Let me just get out the Big Boy here, since I do have one. I don't know how well you can see that there. Hey man, if you spend enough money on these things, you deserve to show them off. Worked hard for this thing. So anyways, with this one here, what I've been experimenting with is when you buy a BLI engine, you really like the smoke feature and you don't want to lose that, but at the same time they have these generic sounds in there which have been the same for 10 years, and every single Broadway engine sounds exactly the same. Typically the whistles aren't right. This one certainly isn't. And they have just their articulated engines sound very generic. So I wanted to keep the smoke, but I want the more accurate sound. So there is a way of doing that, which I've been experimenting with, and I've actually already done that in the Class J that's over there. So what you can do, and I'm not sure if it's practical for every engine, but what I'm doing is I'm keeping the Broadway board in it, and that's just running the lighting, and it's also running the smoke unit. And then what I've been doing is connecting like an ESU decoder, which is picking up from the power from all of the different wheels, and then it's just running the motor. So you have two different decoders in there, you program them to the same road number, and then you lock the functions of the Broadway decoder, which I think is like CV15 or something like that. So you can lock it to where it won't, whenever you make programming changes to the CVs, it only affects one decoder. So that's kind of what I did on 611, and it seemed to work out pretty good. Haven't gotten around to producing the video to show how to do that just yet. So the answer, if you want to replace the decoder in this, yes, but you do keep the Broadway one in there for smoke functionality. So I hope that answers your question there. Do I have any plans to weather it? I would like to, but for something like that, that is an extremely risky procedure. And I would first have to meet somebody that is extremely skilled in that and see their work to determine if that's something that I want to do. Kyle, yes, that would totally be cool. We'll start them back up here just with some of the sounds muted. Just have the turbine running right now. That thing's still smoking. Something else cool I'll be working with here in the near future would be the Broadway Limited Centipedes, which are big suckers. Not sure if I want to put a different decoder in those or not. They definitely need a new speaker setup though. To answer that last question, I don't know a whole lot about the Department of Defense cars. That's probably something you'd have to do custom, assuming you can find something that would be a donor that's fairly close to accurate. I'm sure these model power ones I have are kind of like fantasy units, but I think they fit kind of that World War II era pretty close. And it's just for fun. Doesn't have to be 100% accurate. And you can see them going by here. Man, this S2 is really smoking up the room. Ooh boy, look at that smoke. Probably gonna set off my smoke detector. Man, that's coming out of there. Poor machine's getting smoked out over there. Might as well turn on the Q2 also. Oh yeah, there we go. Now we got a real smoke show going on. Everybody to full speed. question here. It says, can you make a video of how to set up a DCC layout? I'd probably have to dismantle almost everything here in order to do that, so that's probably not a video that I'll make. But with most of these systems, I mean, there's pretty much just 2 wires that hook into the track, and that's really all you got to do. So probably not something I can really show on this layout. Well, this is going on a lot longer than I thought it was going to, so I think we might end this one for tonight. But maybe if there's enough viewership, we can do this like once a week or once a month or something like that, special occasions. So we'll see. Alright, so now I gotta figure out how to log all this stuff off of here. Merry Christmas to all, and to all good night.